Okay, so here's a quick review on what we've done so far in Chapter 9. So this says Part A because we still have not learned everything in Chapter 9, but let's review what we have learned so far. So here it says, given the following dashed graphs of y equals x squared, write a possible equation for the solid graph. So this is telling us that the dashed graph there that we see, this guy here, that's the parent function of x squared. Okay? So now we have to look at the new graph there. Okay, so the blue graph, we see here that it has moved 1, 2, 3 units up. Okay, so let's write this out. So if we know that this is the basic formula of vertex form of a parabola, okay, we know it's vertex. So we can start there, all right? We can start there. So here, this vertex is 0, 3. That is my vertex. So this is my h, this is my k. All right, so I can put those in. So y equals, I know that my h is minus 0, and my k is plus 3. I don't know what my a is yet, though. Okay, so we don't know what a is. But here what we can do is plug in one of these other points. So let's say that I see this point right here. That point is 1, 5. I can plug that in for x and y to solve for a. Okay, so I don't know for sure that a is just 1. And it actually doesn't look like it will be. See, normally the pattern is you go to the right one, up 1, and then there's your next lattice point. But that does not happen here. We go over 1, up 1, we're not on the parabola. We have to go up 2. So what does that mean? What does that mean that a is? Sorry, my allergies are kicking my butt this morning. All right, so here, x minus 0 is just x. So I'm just going to say it's just x squared, right, plus 3. So x minus 0 is just x. So what I'm going to do here is plug in 1, 5. So x was 1, and my y was 5. So now let's simplify this and solve for a. Okay, so we have 5 equals a times 1 squared. Well, 1 squared is just 1. A times 1 is just a, right? So we have a plus 3. A times 1 squared is just a. Here we're going to have to subtract 3 from both sides to solve for a. 5 minus 3 is 2. A is all that's left there. So a is 2. Okay, so this tells us that our equation then is y equals, sorry, my nose is running like crazy, y equals 2, and x minus 0 is just x. So it's going to be x squared plus 3. And we can also write this as just y equals 2x squared plus 3. And it doesn't look like it's in vertex form, but all you have to do is write the minus 0 in here, and then you can see, oh yeah, it's in vertex form. Okay? All right, so here is the next one. This one looks like it got a little bit wider as well. Okay, so let's just write out the basics. So y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So let's find our vertex. It's right here. So this vertex is 4, 0. So we shifted to the right 4. Okay, so this is my h, k. So here I have y equals a times x minus blank squared. My h is 4, so x minus 4 plus 0 here. Okay. All right, so now what we have to do is solve for a. Okay, so let's find another point on this graph. I see a lattice point right here. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then up 2. So this is the point 6, 2. So now we have an x and a y. Okay, so my y is 2. My x is 6. And then that plus 0, I don't really have to write that, right? The k is just 0. So 2 equals a times 6 minus 4 squared. So now I have 2 equals a. 6 minus 4 is 2. So 2 equals a times 2 squared is 4. So now I got to divide both sides by 4. And you can either write this 2/4 as 1/2, or you can even write it as 0.5. That's fine too. Okay? So now we know a is 0.5. So we're going to put that in here into the equation. So now our equation is y equals 0.5, or 1/2, times x minus 4 squared. And you could write the plus 0 if you really wanted to see it in vertex form, but since it's not there, you should know k is 0. Okay? So you don't ever have to write plus 0. Alright, so those are the two equations there. Alright, so write the equation of the parabola in vertex form. So here I forgot to add, of course I forgot to add something. We should also say that we need to know what a is, right? So a equals 1 here, okay? So assume a equals 1. So write the equation of the parabola in vertex form. So vertex form is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Well, the vertex, 2 is the h, 4 is the k. So now if I were to plug this in, and I'm assuming a is just 1, well, my h is 2, okay? And then my k is positive 4. So there's my equation. And I technically don't have to write the 1, right? But we can. All right, so that's my equation in vertex form. All right, now this one says opens downward. So let's assume it's not going to get skinnier or wider, but if something opens down, that means my a must be a negative. And let's just assume it's a -1 here, okay? It does not get skinnier or wider. My vertex is -1, 5. So again, the -1 is my h, 5 is the k. So here, my vertex form is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. So y equals, my a is -1 times x minus, my h is -1 as well. That's my h. And then my k is plus 5, positive 5. So now you see there, we want to simplify inside where the h is, right here. So x minus a -1, the double negative is just a positive. So we have y equals -1 times x plus 1 squared plus 5. And you could have written this just as a negative, but -1 is fine too. So that would be the equation for this one. All right, so number 3, describe the transformation. So what is the effect of the number 5 when y equals x squared is changed to y equals x plus 5 squared? So it's basically asking, what did that plus 5 do here? Well, we know that, oops, that's not what I wanted. We know that technically that would have been x minus a -5 because the h is always the opposite. So if our h is a -5, that means we move to the left 5 units. And if you forgot how the shifts happen, graph each of these in Desmos and see what the see what the difference is there. All right, what is the effect of the number 2 when y equals x squared is changed to y equals x minus 2 squared? Well, this means that my h is a positive 2, because in the formula it's x minus h, right? So it's x minus positive 2. So here we're going to move to the right 2 units. All right, the formatting got kind of weird here. But what is the vertex for the absolute value graph? So absolute value graphs move in the same way that a parabola would. So the absolute value formula is y equals a times the absolute value of x minus h plus k. There's just no squared there because it's not a parabola, okay? So here, if we're looking, we have the negative a, but that just means it's an upside down. So that negative a tells me that this is an upside down absolute value graph. Here, the h is the opposite of what we see. So since it's a plus 7, that means it must have been x minus negative 7 to become x plus 7. So this is a negative 7. The k is a negative 4. Okay? So this is my vertex. Right there. Okay, so for number 5, it says, determine the vertex of the parabola by switching from standard form to vertex form. Okay? So this means that I need to complete the square. Alright, so I have done this in another video, so I'm not going to write down the steps just because I want to keep it relatively quick. But I'm going to do it the way that Khan Academy would have you do it, where we don't have to move things over to the left side, we just kind of keep them on the right side off to the side. So here I'm going to have f of x equals x squared minus 6x, but I want to be able to complete the square, so I'm just going to set that plus 5 over here out of my way. Okay? So now to complete this square, I need to add b over 2 squared. My b is negative 6. Negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. Squared is 9. So I need to add 9, but I can't just add 9 to the side and be like, okay, cool, we're good. I have to keep it balanced. So I also have to subtract 9 from this positive 5 here off to the side that just kind of hangs out there while I allow myself to complete the square. Because I have to technically only add 0 whenever I'm dealing with any equation. So now here I have f of x equals x squared minus 6x plus 9. And then this guy off to the side here, 5 minus 9 is a negative 4. And we'll use that negative 4 a little bit later, but not right now. So now we have to rewrite this in complete square form, which is going to be x plus negative 6 over 2 quantity squared. So the negative 6 is our b. Okay, that's where I got that. So this is going to be x minus 3 squared. Negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. So now we have, this becomes x minus 3 squared. And that was us completing the square. So now we have this vertex form of the parabola. We're all done. Okay, so now we have x minus 3 squared minus 4. So this tells me that my vertex, which I know I wrote it up here, but my vertex, the opposite of negative 3 is a positive 3, and the negative 4 it is what it is. So that was my h and my k. So that is the vertex of this parabola. And if you were to graph it to double check your work, you should see that as the vertex as well. Okay? So hopefully this was a solid review for you. Do your Khan Academy assignments and then try out the EST that should be posted in Google